Well, the super gender gap is real. So how can women boost their retirement savings? What do we need to know about this to help us stay informed? Nicole Oborne from PwC Australia, she's the superannuation lead there, joins me now. Nicole, a very warm welcome to you. Look, we hear a lot about pay inequity. We hear a lot about women having to take time out of their careers to raise children. Give us some context around just how, much that can set us back.
Yeah, thank you, Nadine. It's a pleasure to be with you today. I am quite passionate about this topic for various reasons, but most predominantly I am a woman as well, and so are you. And we all deserve to have a dignified retirement, all Australians, that is, and that's what the superannuation system really strives to achieve. But unfortunately, the statistics today are that there's a gap of 20 to 25% in the overall balance that women have to retire on in comparison to men. And in addition to that, you add those career breaks, which also make a compound lifetime, impact to that outcome as well. So we have come a long way as a retirement outcomes savings of this nation. Superannuation has now been in place for 33 years, and over that time the gap has slowly come to fruition and has become more manageable, and there's been more awareness around that gap, but there's clearly a lot more to go that we need to work through, and that really consists of the structural nature, the behaviours of everyday Australians, and also the policies that set the superannuation sector and what that means to everyday Australians, and in particular women.
Yeah, it's so interesting because it is that, perfect meeting of policy, of politics sometimes, of industry, money. So when you are speaking with your clients, what type of hurdles, what type of problems are you helping them solve, Nicole?
Yeah, it is very personal. So every situation is different. We all have life choices to make, some which we lean in on, and others which are made for us. But ultimately, the wage gap that we see across gender does have a flow-on effect to the superannuation gap between males and females. The discussion that does continue to come up is the low-income earners bracket. They can predominantly be women, and some 13 years ago, a policy was put in place to offset the tax on the contributions made by low-income earners, and that has assisted in partly in that gap, but that plateaued over time because the amount that was set for what is referred to as Listo, the low-income superannuation tax offset, was set at $37,000. And clearly today, low-income earners earn, hopefully, a bit more than that. And so a commitment has recently been made by government to increase that Listo to $45,000. And I think that will help with the gap that we see today, but ultimately that needs to increase to be proportionate with low-income earners and the wage increases that take place post this period as well, and that's going to be very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was sort of talked about a lot around that Division 296, I think it was, last year. Nicole, you mentioned earlier the phrase dignified retirement. In your view, what does that mean?
In my personal view, it's people being able to make the choices that they desire on how they would like to retire. I don't think anyone should be less off in terms of their ability to obtain the right health support that they need in life, the home life style. So actually, having a place to reside and not needing to, depend on others to support you through that, and a level of livability at that retirement phase of your life.
Okay, and so women might be more inclined to fall beneath that sort of retire with dignity scenario. So, what can we do? I mean, that's one thing for policy. It's another thing for arming ourselves and trying to do what we can do to ensure we've got that dignified retirement.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, over the next decade, it's predicted that 2.5 million Australians will reach retirement phase over that lifetime. A majority of those will be women. There's no earlier time to start in having a conversation around your financial well-being, and superannuation should be a big part of that conversation. Superannuation is also one component of your financial well-being. There's also things like the age pension and other attributes to what that might look like over your retirement phase of life. So advice is a big part of that discussion. Being able to access the right advice. A lot of superannuation funds have that type of service, but also there are free services through, ASIC portals and regulator portals. The Money Smart portal is a good example of that provides good insight into the contributing factors that should be considered as part of your decision making. But it is definitely something worthy of every Australian, and women included, to really lean in on. It can feel complex, and it can feel like, a period that's, over a very long period of your lifetime. But it's definitely something worthy of, upskilling yourself on, reaching out to the right, advice contacts that you may have and leverage points, and really trying to contribute as early as you can to be able to strive for that dignified outcome.
And as far as advisors go and those that are getting advice, I would imagine there's probably some challenges in getting a lot of women to be able to in fact pay for advice, but advisors really need to be driving this home with their client base, shouldn't they? Particularly their women, clients.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, general advice is more generally available to everyone. And, there's information guides that people can access around the rules and the different concessions that are available to consider. But in terms of personal advice, that distribution arm can sometimes be harder to get a hold of or to have a reach out to, and can come at a cost. But making the wrong decision can also come at sometimes a greater cost as well. And there are organisations out there that, do strive to provide the right level of advice for the right fair value as well. So it's really up to every individual circumstance on how you go about obtaining that advice. But it can be quite complicated to comprehend, particularly given, when the financial literacy that we find ourselves in at this point in time as Australians. Not everyone can get their head around all the complexities around the rules and the various opportunities that you may have in your decision making. So advice should be a big part of your considerations, definitely.